This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on India-Ukraine bilateral ties. The participants are Manoj Kumar Bharti, former ambassador, and Nishit Kumar, anchor.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi just concluded high-profile visit to Ukraine, which concluded yesterday. And to discuss the various gamuts and aspects of India-Ukraine relations, we are joined in by former ambassador of India to Ukraine, Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti. Mr. Bharti, welcome to our show.
Thank you, and namaste to all your listeners as well.
The significance of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Kyiv, Ukraine on the 23rd of August ranks high on many fronts and aspects. It is, of course, the first ever visit by an Indian Prime Minister ever since the state of Ukraine came into existence from the disintegration of the then USSR in 1991. Mr. Bharti, how do you see this epoch-making visit and the establishment of diplomatic relations post-1992?
Let me start with the formation of Ukraine itself. After the breakup of Soviet Union, Ukraine became one of the most important nations in that part of the world. From 2 points, the importance can be judged. The first is by sheer size in terms of area. Ukraine is the largest country in Europe, even today. And the second is scientific capability that the breakaway country Ukraine had, because in the erstwhile Soviet Union, most of the scientific research, whether it is in terms of radio technology or shipbuilding and many other areas of education and research, it was being done in Ukraine. Kharkiv University, Kyiv University, these were centers of excellence in terms of research and knowledge. And also in terms of agriculture, Ukraine was and is known as the breadbasket of Europe and at that time Soviet Union as well. So it has been a very important country since its birth in 1991. India was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relationship with Ukraine. We have signed a very large number of agreements and cooperation strategies with Ukraine since very beginning. Unfortunately, this relationship came under strain after the Pokhran test that was held in 1996, which cast some shadows on our relationship till recently. But I would say in the last 10 years, the things have changed. And since 2015, Ukraine has started realizing that with the growing influence of India and Indian economy in the world, it was not very wise to continue to be at a distance with India.
So the two nations have been engaged in cooperation in myriad fields, be it economic, scientific, technical, cultural, defense, people-to-people ties, so on and so forth. And the exchange and relationship was mostly comprehensive. But now the joint statement after Mr. Modi and President Zelensky meeting talks of elevating the same to a strategic partnership in future. What really it means and what's the significance?
It has two different connotations. One, the confidence that each country has in the other increases tremendously. The word strategic means that we can depend on each other from not only economic and commercial and other people-to-people contact point of view, but also whenever one country is affected by any disaster or any aggression or something, the other country has a role to play in coming to its assistance. I see that at this particular juncture, enhancing the relationship to strategic level has far-reaching consequences in view of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the effect that this war is having on the entire world, especially on the third world countries. With that in view, I would say this is a very important development.
Mr. Bharti, defense cooperation has been the fulcrum, if we may so, of the bilateral ties between the two nations, given that India is the largest market for Ukraine in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, both the sides have agreed to further bolster it by working towards facilitating a stronger relationship between defense entities, including joint collaborations and partnership for manufacturing in India and cooperation in emerging areas. The two sides have also agreed to hold the second meeting of the Indian-Ukrainian Joint Working Group on Military Technical Cooperation established under the 2012 Defense Cooperation Agreement. Now, how significant is this, especially when we see the initiative to be in sync or in line with India's growing heft all round and influence, and also the policy of Make in India?
As I have said earlier, that Soviet Union was a center of excellence in terms of technology and research right from the beginning. Ukraine needs India and Indian defense industry to develop its technology and knowledge, which became stagnant for a long time after the breakaway from Soviet Union. India needs this kind of expertise and technology in defense manufacturing particularly because we are interested in widening our defense production, keeping in mind Make in India strategy. Whether it is in shipbuilding, building of our submarines, aircraft manufacturing, ground level equipment, take any field, and Ukraine has certain expertise which are within the hands of their scientists. With my own experience of 3 years, I can tell you, I met a number of institutions and a number of scientists who were having amazing new technologies available with them. It is important to give a way so that these technologies and knowledge can be translated into reality, and nothing better can be the Indian defense industrial area, which has its own capability and it's hungry to improve its capability by incorporating new and emerging technology. Similarly, in the field of radio technology, in the field of chip manufacturing, in the area of artificial intelligence, all these will benefit if India and Ukraine join hands for a closer cooperation.
All right. Now, Mr. Bharti, coming to geopolitical scenario, what we're witnessing now, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has really been kind of a major Achilles heel for India, if we may say so, given the historic and strong ties between India and Russia, of course. And negotiating the situation must be a very tightrope balancing act for the government, that is the Indian government, diplomatically and even otherwise. So how do you see this, and what could be India's stand if things don't really work out between Russia and Ukraine anytime soon?
As we all know, Russia has been a time-tested friend for India for a very long time, and it has stood with India in difficult times. So that friendship has to be respected by everyone, and we do respect it. At the same time, India and Indian leaders, particularly Prime Minister Modi, has time and again reiterated that 21st century is not time for this kind of a war or aggression from any side. It has put this point of view repeatedly in various fora as well as with various leaders, including President Putin. India firmly believes that the war has to be settled as quickly as possible with the help of diplomatic negotiations and a policy of give and take. Both sides have to realize that we have to find a solution, and at an early stage. It has been reflected in our joint communique as well. You will see that Prime Minister Modi has suggested that we find a solution in an innovative manner, trying to think out of the box or whatever you call it. But the word innovative solution has been mentioned in the joint communique. India is going to work with whatever steps are taken to find a solution, and India is also going to be instrumental in finding an innovative solution.
Right, Mr. Bharti, you talk of India-Ukraine kind of making that joint statement of a peaceful resolution or solution of the conflict. Now, PM Modi and President Zelensky also reiterated their readiness for further cooperation in upholding the principles of international law, including the UN Charter, and India stressed its principled position and focus on, of course, peaceful resolution of the Russia-Ukraine conflict through dialogue and diplomacy, so on and so forth, as part of which India attended the summit on peace in Ukraine held in Bergenstock in Switzerland in June 2024. Now, this is significant. This is important. How big and significant actually has been India's role at the high table of diplomacy in Bergenstock?
Our participation in that meeting in Bergenstock is a clear sign that India is first of all, getting more and more concerned on the length of this war. It has been more than 900 days, which is unthinkable in these times, as well as it is also serious to find a solution. And with both these things, India has participated on this high table of leaders or leadership in Bergenstock. But I would say that in the joint communiqué that we have issued, there is also a very strong reference to respecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of each other. This also gives a sign that India is prepared to go by the international law and try and find a solution. These kind of intricate problems where territorial integrity needs to be respected and needs to be respected by all sides. Any country would like to have their territorial integrity and sovereignty respected by their neighbors and others, wherever they are.
The two leaders, Mr. Bharti, also emphasized the importance of India-Ukrainian Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technical, Industrial and Cultural Cooperation in facilitating a future-oriented and stronger economic partnership. How do you see this?
India-Ukraine had already developed a very strong interdependency in terms of sheer trade and commerce. At peak in 2021 and 22, just before the war started, bilateral trade had reached a level of $3.2 billion, where India's export to Ukraine was over $500 million, $500 million. And Ukraine's export to India was more than $2.6 billion. You can see that this kind of volume of trade is hard to find almost entire European countries. If you leave behind a few of them like Germany and France, Spain, etc. But most of the countries in Europe have much lesser trade with India. And also in terms of its spread, India depended heavily on the import of Ukrainian sunflower oil. There was a lot of export of wheat from Ukraine. We had also ventured into export of pulses from Ukraine. Then there was also oil and gas. These things have been increasing the volume of bilateral trade over the years. Apart from this, if you see in terms of scientific collaboration, CSIR and the Ukrainian institutions have a very close working relationship. That needs to be strengthened further in terms of finding new technologies and new discoveries for our industry. Similarly, in terms of defense, we know what kind of deep and close cooperation we have had in terms of repair and maintenance of our defense equipment, construction and maintenance of our aircraft, etc. I have a feeling that second meeting of this joint working group will bring new things on the table and also will boost understanding of each other's capabilities and potential for future growth.
So now looking forward, what other domain or areas do you feel India should really engage in with Ukraine to further bolster ties and also augment its overall presence and, of course, develop better ties?
I would once again go back to the scientific and research capabilities that exist in Ukraine. And I would say that in the cutting edge of technology, whether it is in terms of artificial intelligence, chip manufacturing, shipbuilding, aircraft construction or manufacturing, all of these areas have potential for closer cooperation between India and Ukraine. I would also say that metallurgy is another area in which Ukraine has very strong potential and capability. That is another area which is very important for Indian industries' growth in future.
Right. Thank you so very much, Ambassador Bharti, for having joined in and shed light on the critical and crucial India-Ukraine relations and, of course, discussing about Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ukraine recently. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on India-Ukraine bilateral ties. The participants were Manoj Kumar Bharti, former ambassador, and Nishit Kumar, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.